Collin, when you're starting a new project, do you start with an idea? Do you start with a theme, a character?
For me, I find a lot of the times it is the concept and the big kind of story elements. I know a lot of people, it'll be a character that speaks to them and they kind of expand from there. For me, it's always starting with a concept and building my way out from there. If I can try to come up with something high concept or blending genres together or making a spin on something that was maybe popular a long time ago, figuring out a new way into that story. I really enjoy contained films, whether it's it's buried where it's a guy in a coffin for the whole movie, or something where a guy is in a car for the whole movie. I always think it's fun, and it's kind of a troubleshooting way of, can we take a location or somewhere no one's seen before or not seen this way and turn in a new direction? That's the fun and that's the challenge of it. And from there, I think it's figuring out the characters, it's figuring out the emotional journeys, it's figuring out what makes a good foil to them as the antagonist. But yeah, with the process, I start with concepts.
And is action something that you want to continue doing? Would you ever write a rom-com?
I have not written a rom-com. I think there's a little bit of comedy in all my stuff. In some scenes, I mean, Hot Seat's a fun concept. There's some fun in there. I love writing action. I feel like I try to make genre films and genre stories with a heart. So I love thriller movies. I've always been, since I was a little kid, probably watching horror movies from way too young of age, so I've been a big horror movie fan. But yeah, I love action. I mean, I went to school for history, so I've written a couple historic scripts. I had a Western film, so I've written pretty much everything except for like a straight comedy. But I'd say the genre stuff, thrillers, action, horrors, kind of my lane.
And what's the art to weaving in comedy in something where the stakes are high in an action film?
I think it's nice to have levity, and I think it's nice to have a break from the tension. We'll throw characters in these very high stress situations, but I think if you can have banter between your main characters, just with Hot Seat and mentioning speed, just the relationship with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock is so much fun and back and forth between them, that even though they're in this insane situation, there is some levity to keep the audience a little bit loose. So I think if you keep the tension up too high for too long, it kind of loses the effect. So I think with anything, you can splice in a little bit of comedy.
How much detail do you put into your outlines?
When I started out as a screenwriter, I would say not enough detail. And I would do what a lot of, I think, early writers do. And some people can do this. Some people can pull this off. I can't anymore, which is you kind of get a nugget of an idea, or you get something that really excites you and you just dive in. And I could always get about 30, 40 pages in of just kind of plowing forward. And then I would kind of reach a point where I was like, need to recalibrate, need to figure out where this is really going, and kind of have to go backwards and then kind of re-put it together from the outline form. So I think I've gotten a lot better about doing more detailed outlines, really knowing where the story is going from beginning to end with an outline. And once you start, it's like a car, driving. I mean, you'll take a turn and then you'll go with that and you'll follow that for a while. So I'm not super married to the outlines, but from when I started to now, I definitely put a lot more work into it. And getting feedback from my writing group on the outline is important, just to kind of get another POV on if things are working or not, because that is the structure of your film, is your outline.
Do you write with a specific audience in mind?
I don't necessarily. I try to write things that I would go see, whether it's something scary and fresh or like an action film. So I think I'm writing for those audiences who love fun genre films, who love to be scared or love a crazy action scene or love a good contained thriller. I think that's the kind of audience that I'm writing for.
Can you describe the moment when you feel the screenplay is done?
I can try my best. I used to have, you can want it to be as perfect as possible. And, I think most writers have a sense of perfectionism to them, for better and for worse. So I think there was a time where I would not send things out because I didn't feel like it was ready, or I didn't feel like it was perfect enough. And then it got to a place where you got to accept that it's never going to be perfect. But I think when you feel like it's done and you're ready to send out, for me, my process is I have a pretty good writing group that I get feedback from. So when I feel like I can nail those notes, I have a good little circle of people in the industry that I'll send the script out to, get their feedback, whether it's it's my manager, it's one of my writing friends. Get those notes, get that feedback, and then kind of rewrite the script and get it to a good place there. And when I feel like I've kind of checked off a lot of those boxes of other people's just general feedback on the story, I feel like it's probably okay to start sending it out and sharing it. And I think also accepting that the process, until the movie is made, it's always going to be in flux. There's always going to be feedback, whether it's a producer, a director, an actor, everywhere down the line, someone's going to have some sort of feedback. And the script is kind of a living document that is going to change. So I think feeling like when I'm confident in it, when I'm happy with the product, I'll send it out. But also remembering the first draft or the early drafts, it's kind of it's your story, and then you're going to send it out to other people, and it's still your story, but it's going to become other people's stories, how they interpret it, their view is going to change on it. So I think a big thing with me is not being incredibly precious with certain things, which I notice a lot of writers have that. I mean, I think it's obviously important to stick to your guns on a script, to really, really be committed to your concept, to your characters and everything. But for me, it's not being too precious with everything. It's being open to feedback. I think it's really important.
And just out of curiosity, how long after you had arrived in Los Angeles were you part of a writing group?
I moved out to Los Angeles. I did some classes over at UCLA. I did some classes at USC, and then I did some classes for a while at UCLA Extension. So before I got into a really good writing group, it was probably a couple years. And I think writing groups are kind of trial and error too. You'll run into some good ones where people really connect, and then you might be in one where people don't give a lot of great feedback, or the feedback is a little negative, and that's also another thing you just have to be worried about. Getting notes is something I think getting notes is a skill in itself, and I think that being confident in your story and your POV and knowing where other people are coming from with their feedback is also important. But I would say probably three or 4 years it took me to find a good writing group. I've been in one for 8 or 9 years now. Yeah, it's been a solid group.
And maybe too, people that are too positive. Is that also a detriment? Because you don't want yes people around you all the time. That happens in LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you're a genius. This is the best thing I've ever read.
Right. Can I be part of it?
I think everything with film, you got to take with a grain of salt, one way or the other. The script is not going to be so bad, and it's not going to be the most perfect, amazing thing ever. But I think it's important to have people who you share your work with that will give you honest criticism, that won't just butter up your ego. I think getting honest criticism is part of the process to make things better. I think a director I work with always said, sometimes you shake the tree. He was talking about, because we were kind of getting into it over feedback. He was talking about, shaking the tree and the best fruit will sometimes fall. So we really once we talked about that, and you realize it's not really personal. You're trying to make this story the best it can be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be my idea all the time. It could be the director has a great idea. So I think that just figuring out what is the best for the story is the most important thing.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you are a history buff and that you studied history. What time period, if you could only write that time for the rest of your career, would it be?
Oh man, in college I was a big Napoleonic history buff, so I loved all that. I love all kinds of history. I feel like it's always changing. I was World War II for a while, World War I, studying the Civil War, studying the Cold War. There's so many different fun periods of history, and I think it's interesting to see fresh movies that come out of those periods. I feel like there's always kind of a new spin on a Cold War spy movie. There's always some sort of spin on a World War II movie because it's timely. It's good versus evil in a lot of those situations that we can pull from. So.
Sure. What was it, The Good Shepherd? Did you see The Good Shepherd?
I saw it a while ago. That's this Matt Damon spy movie.
It's so great. Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Excellent film.
I just recently watched on a plane a movie called Spy Game, which slipped under the radar with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt.
Okay.
Cool movie. I don't know how I missed that one, but that was a cool movie.
Right. So you think back to the times when maybe you were a teenager, whenever, and would you see that movie advertised, and would I want to go see it? Would I spend my money to sit there for 2 hours? And that's who you're writing for?
Yeah, and I think even now, I mean, I try to go see as many movies out in theaters as possible. I think that's like so important to just get out and still see movies versus just, either streaming something or renting something. I love going to the movie theater.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking of like, if I saw this trailer or this poster, like, I want to write something like that that's going to make me want to go see it on a Friday night. So I think that's who I'm writing for. It's just people who love going out to the movies, honestly. Yeah.